if one is considering something, what are they doing? If you consider something, what are you doing? What are you engaging in?
Reason.
Reason?
Making a choice.
Making a choice? What's going on in your mind?
Debating.
Debating? Yeah. You're thinking about something deeply. You're taking into account varied factors, and you're engaging in this contemplative endeavor, which then usually manifests in some kind of action or some kind of decision. The word consider is made by two Latin words, con, which means with or together, and sidus, which means the stars. So it actually has this idea of thinking with the stars, which likely comes from our pagan ancestry, which gave a lot of credence to what the stars had to say about things. And we still have this around today. With like zodiac signs. And in the modern world, actually, the zodiac signs they're actually quite tame as they're contrasted with the ancient world, where each zodiac sign is associated with the star, and they had what were called decans, which were three other stars associated with them that corresponded with demons or some kind of divinity. And these decans then were part of how pagans considered how they lived their lives. But we're not pagans. We're not pagans anymore. We used to be. And so we don't consider ourselves by the stars of creation, but we do consider ourselves by the one who made the stars. And Scripture actually refers to him, to Christ, as a star. Balaam, in one of his prophecies, says, a star will come out of Jacob, in reference to Jesus. Malachi says that Jesus is the Son of Righteousness, which is a type of star. Zacharias says that the day spring from on high has visited us, which is a kind of an antiquated reference to a rising sun. But I love that phrase, the day spring from on high. And then Jesus says of himself at the end of John's Apocalypse, he says, I am the root and the offspring of David, the bright and morning star. So as Christians, when we think with the stars, we think with the star. We think with the bright morning star. We think with the star who came out of Jacob. And another way of saying this is what Paul says to the Corinthians, that we have the mind of Christ, to put on the mind of Christ. And another way of saying this, Paul says that we take every thought captive to the knowledge of Christ, and we make it obedient to the knowledge of Christ. This means that when we consider ourselves and our place in the universe, we don't look to the universe for guidance. We don't look to zodiac signs for guidance. We don't look to tarot cards, and we don't look to fallen stars through DMT trips. We think with the star who came out of Jacob. We think with the morning star, the offspring of David. When we consider our conversations with friends and family, we do so with the mind of Christ. We consider what we hear in music and what we see on the internet and what we watch in movies, and what you kids are watching on TikTok if you're a Christian. You consider all of these things with the mind of Christ. You take them into consideration with what Christ would think about these things and what his word has said about them. We consider them in the light of the rising sun, who is Jesus, who gives light to all things. All other lights are derivative, and all evil is darkness trying to obscure that light. Our postmillennial dominion involves taking into captivity every thought and making them obedient to Christ. There's this kind of postmillennial dominion that happens in our heads before we go out and we take dominion of the world. We evangelize and disciple our thoughts so that we can evangelize and disciple the world. So when we consider, we think with the star of Jacob, and this reminds us of our need to confess.